Is the difficult time in your life robbing you of joy right now? Are you stuck in survival mode? What if I told you that you could have joy and it can be yours today? This isn't a mindset choice. This is tapping into the source of joy and learning that you have purpose right now, even in your suffering.
That's what we're going to talk about today. So come take a walk in the wilderness with me. If you'd like information on today's hike, stick around to the end of the video and I will give you all of the details. We had a rare ice storm here in Austin, Texas. Happens about once a year, sometimes twice a year. But it's been a really good time to sit and spend a lot of time stuck indoors reflecting. It feels good to be back out again. So being stuck in the house for 4 days gave me a lot of time to think and reflect about the events and things happening in my life right now and being out in the wilderness. And I really had a revelation yesterday. It was incredible. I love it when that happens because I feel like it's telling me I'm on the right path. It's God's voice coming and telling me you're doing a good job. You just have to hang in there. Keep going, keep going. I'm going to try not to fall here. Still a little icy. But the revelation that I had was this. And the Bible's full of different times when people have gone out into the wilderness. Some by choice, some by not. Israelites, when they were escaping slavery in Egypt, spent 40 years in the wilderness, along with Moses. Jesus even went out into the wilderness. But here's what I'm learning about being out in the wilderness. It had to happen. I didn't do something wrong. It wasn't a misstep. Being in the wilderness had to happen because it was the death of my false self, my old self. The old self is falling away and you can't fill up a vessel that's already full. So this is basically emptying out the cup and waiting on God to fill it with His will, His way. Just like in Isaiah 43, verse 18, before the wilderness verse in 19, it says, "Behold, I am doing something new. Do you not perceive it?" He tells us there is something new coming, but that wilderness time is the perfect time because it's Him drawing near to you, the old self being basically disintegrated is probably a good word for it. I don't know another good word for it. That's incredible. It's an incredible transformative time. So instead of looking at it with dread and wondering why things aren't changing, why our lives aren't getting better, we can look at it with joy and go, wow, something cool is being worked out in me right now. I feel like the season is also a perfect time to talk about this because the trees are all dead and crispy and crunchy. Most of them are. Cedars are still here. The leaves have fallen away. The old leaves have fallen away. And then it's dormant and everything looks dead, but it's not. It's just a transformative time. And in the spring, there's going to be evidence of the new life is going to spring forth if we just keep going. So if this wilderness time must happen in our lives in order to remove our false self, the old self, and make way for God's will in our new self, then I'm going to tell you why. Instead of dread out here in the wilderness, we can actually choose joy. We can choose joy here in the wilderness, in our wilderness time. And I know that that's not always easy because it's not easy being out in the wilderness. But today I'm going to share 3 simple truths that help me find joy here in the wilderness. Even when life isn't turning out exactly like I thought it would or should, God's will is going to be better than any plan I could ever have come up with. First of all, we have to understand that joy is a choice. It's not a result. When our lives, if we just choose to get happy once our lives are in perfect shape, then anything, we're blown about like a reed in the wind, that becomes us. We're just anything. If we lose those circumstances that are making us feel joy around us, then what's left? But this is a time, this wilderness time is shaking us to our very core. And when you choose joy in that and you choose purpose, whenever you're still in the wilderness, then you become unshakable. It's an unshakable faith, and your joy is not dependent on outside circumstances any longer. I love the book of Philippians because it is a book about joy, choosing joy. But here's the crazy thing. It was written whenever the Apostle Paul was in prison. So can you imagine being in prison, not knowing if you're going to be put to death or not? You know, he had watched many of the disciples be killed or martyred by that time. So here he is in jail, prison, and he's talking about joy. And in Philippians, he says in 4:4, rejoice in the Lord always. Again, I say rejoice, not when our lives are worked out and we're out of the wilderness. We rejoice in the Lord now. We can have joy now. It's not dependent on our circumstances. Not anymore. Not with God. James 1:2, it says to count it all a joy, even when we face trials. Not because the trials are fun, but because God is doing something in you. He is doing something. He's giving you a purpose. That is something to be able to choose joy about. And I know, like I've had friends that have battled cancer and have been so much more joyful than I was in my little day-to-day problems. They're facing possible death and they're still able to choose joy. Those are people of great faith. Great faith. The second point is that your brain is wired for survival, but your spirit is wired for peace. And peace is ours for the choosing. Because God draws near to us in this wilderness time, things, our outside circumstances are no longer dependent on if we should be joyful or not. If God's with us, especially at this time, why would we not choose joy? But again, back to Philippians, because we're going to spend some time in there today. Philippians 4:6-7 says, be anxious for nothing. It teaches to be anxious for nothing. But in everything, by prayer and supplication, make our requests known to Him. And the peace of God, which transcends all understanding, will guard your hearts and minds in Christ Jesus. So even in the wilderness, especially in the wilderness, we can choose joy because it's ours for the asking, it's ours for the taking. God is going to protect our hearts and help us get to that place. I woke up this morning and that was the first thing I said. Spirit, come quickly today, God. Please help me in this season of struggle, and your will be done, not mine. Not mine. And here are the people doing yard work across the way. Sorry about that. So much for getting lost in the wilderness today. But here's the third point that I want you to know. The beginning of Isaiah 43, he says that He has chosen us by name. And He says, you are mine. We're not out here in the wilderness without Him. He draws close to the brokenhearted. He draws near to the brokenhearted and those crushed in spirit. And if you're spending any time in the wilderness, you have to understand you've been called. He's calling you for a greater purpose. And that's why your perseverance and patience and joy count so much more in this time, because He is coming to you. He sees you. He is the God who sees you. He knows the struggles that you're facing, but you are being chosen. And there is so much joy in knowing, one, that He is near to you, that He is drawn near to you, and secondly, that you are being chosen. This transformative time is preparing you for what's coming next. There's so much joy in that. When God says, oh, I see you, I pick you, I'm going to do amazing things with your life. Paul explained that even being in prison, he was still being used for a purpose. In Nehemiah, it says that the joy of the Lord is your strength. So even in the wilderness time, if you choose joy, that is God's strength. You're choosing to look to God and not the waves. You're looking at Jesus. You're looking at what He has planned for your life. And sometimes joy becomes your strength when you have nothing else to hold on to. And I think that's what the wilderness time for many of us is. It's a stripping away of our old identity and all of the things that we used to cling to for our value, for our worth, for our purpose. Those things are being taken away. And so what do we have left to cling to? Christ, God, the one who draws near to us, the one that says, you are mine. I just want you to know you don't have to pretend it's easy. God knows it's not. And He says to make your request known to Him. And I think that there's a lot of comfort in that as well. He knows the struggles you're facing. He knows what you're going through, but He still says to you, trust me. Just trust me. I'm doing this for a reason. Isn't this beautiful?
You can say to God, He can handle your truth. God, I don't know how this is going to work out, but I trust you to meet me here. And maybe today, joy looks like one little walk. Maybe it looks like a cup of hot coffee in your favorite cafe. Maybe it looks like a quiet moment where you allow yourself to just breathe. Because yes, the wilderness time is real, but so is God. And He makes joy still possible here. Thank you so much for watching today. Today's hike was filmed at the Emilong Cliff Loop Trail just outside of Emilong Metropolitan Park. It's a 2.8 mile loop. It's got 226-foot elevation gain, so it's not hilly. And I like to stop and hang out on the cliffs overlooking Lake Austin, which has some of the most beautiful views of the surrounding area. The trailhead's located off of City Park Road, and this is one of the least trafficked areas in the park, but it's incredible to go and see the views. I do want to issue a word of warning. Cars are broken into this parking lot all the time, as well as the Turkey Creek Trail, which is nearby. Do not bring any valuables with you. Some of the locals like to leave their windows down so that people don't break into their cars. I'll leave that to whatever you think you should do is best. But I like to lock my cars, keep my windows up, but I bring nothing. I make sure that there is nothing in my car. Just please be careful. Thank you for listening and watching today. And I just pray that the grace and peace of our Lord is with you, and that joy finds you in this season of hardship. Blessings to you. Thank you for watching. Have a great day.